Emma Thompson is here. She came from a show business family. Her father and her mother both were in show business. She went to Cambridge. She went on to star in British television and in the movies. You know her from Remains of the Day. You also know her from a number of movies. She's married to Kenneth Branagh, who has been here talking about his movies and about their careers together. She's in a new movie called Junior. Arnold Schwarzenegger co-stars with Danny DeVito, directed by Ivan Reitman, and I am very pleased to have her here. Welcome.
Thanks.
Is there a difference in British training and American training? I mean, can you see things about British actors and the way they go about it and the way...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think there are enormous differences. I don't know about training because I didn't train, and I don't know whether there's any preparation for being an actor.
Point of contention when you and Ken first met, was it?
No, I don't.
Well, the story
think so.
I once read, I'll come back to that, but there was a story once about you two sort of had a mating routine before when you first came together.
Yeah, the lobster
because you came from different places and...
Yes, that's right. And I was appearing in Me and My Girl, which was a sort of musical comedy, and he was appearing in Henry V with the Royal Shouting Company.
Serious actor.
I was a serious actor, and, you know, I was this kind of two-bit hoofer in a musical. And I do remember having a row about that when we first met, and I said, well, I didn't want to go and see Henry because I didn't particularly want to go and see a play about men fighting. And he said, well, I didn't want to go and see Me and My Girl. I didn't want this stupid thing about some cockney who inherits a fortune. Yeah. And we were quite nippy. I mean, there is that the same snobbery exists, which exists here, I think,
but
too.
About the difference in the British acting and American acting.
Well, you have to remember that I think probably one of the greatest influences on British acting that has ever been was the invention or the arrival of the method. As practiced by Marlon Brando. And my parents, you see, my parents were both actors, and they met as fledgling actors at the Bristol Old Vic, which is a very old, famous drama school, and then went on to join the company. And when my mother was young, what she expected to do was to play in Shakespeare for the rest of her life, because television was still very young, okay? So that's just this generation, it's changed that much in our country. Now people go to drama school and they know that they're going to be doing television and theatre and possibly film. The mixture of the disciplines is very important in our country, the mixture of theatre and television and film, and means that you have a complete chasm here. People don't cross-pollinate at all. They only do, you have film actors, television actors and theatre actors, which means it's very difficult for some people to survive or develop because each discipline informs the other. And I would have thought that the theatrical discipline is possibly the most useful as a training tool.
I would think so.
Because it's about repetition and the discovery of how to make something spontaneous without necessarily having to really experience it. And also, because, you know, you're in the wings, and when you're in the wings, you're not on, as it were. You walk on stage, and you are on, but you're on and off and on and off all the time. And it, I think, makes people quicker on their feet. I think sometimes in this country, especially with film and especially with young actors who haven't had any kind of formal training, they'll get terribly bogged down by the thing of, I've got to really feel this, instead of using a certain amount of technique and then and getting... It's a very zen process, acting, because in a sense it's really about letting go and not controlling.
Yes.
But you have to learn how to do it, and theatre's a very good teacher.
There was that great line, I don't know whether it's true or not, but when Olivier was acting with Dustin Hoffman. No, with Dustin Hoffman, you know the story. And Dustin, I guess, had been up without sleep for 3 or 4 days. And he Marathon Man. He came in to do the part, and he couldn't, whatever. And he was explaining what he'd gone through to get in the mood, to get it right. And Olivier said, have you tried acting?
Dear boy.
Dear boy, that's true, dear boy.
And all Olivier's notes, because all the actors in our country at some point or other came across Olivier, because of course he started the National Theatre Company, and they all say that the notes that he gave were very brief and very practical. So a young actor I know, well actually he can't be, he must be sort of 40-something now, was playing Mercutio in a production of Romeo and Juliet, and he went to Sir Lawrence and said, you know, can you just give me something, tell us, what is he like, Mercutio? And Olivier thought for a moment, he just said, hot.
Yes.
And that was it. And it's like so helpful, actually, because Mercutio is at boiling point all the way through, like a cat on a hot tin roof. And it was just, it's that practicality. You know, it's like if you're playing grief, you're often tired. And just that will do it.
Didn't he once say something about, I think Olivier once said something about how he would like to be perceived. And he said, good at my craft like a plumber is good at his craft.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. I remember my godfather meeting Ken for the first time and he said, he's like a plumber.
Yeah.
Usually he comes in, you think he's going to mend the pipes.
Ken.
Yes, he was talking about Ken.
Yeah.
Because Ken doesn't have... Olivier actually always had... That's why Ken always found the comparison with him and Olivier so laughable, because Olivier had this extraordinarily patrician glamour, actually. I mean, he was virtually aristocratic in his bearing, his sort of hauteur, his you know, I mean, just so extraordinary to look at. I mean, him and Vivian Leigh and...
But everybody called him Larry, though, which is a very informal...
Yes. But he was wicked. Wicked to people. And worked on them and needled them. But I wish I'd seen him live.
You never saw him live?
No.
Yeah. Your father and mother, your dad did something called the Magic Roundabout, which is a great children's program.
Yeah.
He's been described, which I'm sure is inappropriate, probably, as the Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers of...
See, I don't know who Fred Rogers is.
He does a children's program. He's a very, very popular, long-running children's program and a very nice man.
Yes.
I never saw your father's show, obviously. It was called The Magic Roundabout.
Yes.
Did they both want you to be in the theater? Did they encourage you to be a performer?
No, but they didn't not encourage me. And in fact, I didn't want to be a performer at all. My sister always wanted to be an actress.
Yeah.
She knew from very early on. And I didn't at all. All I was interested in was books.
Thinking you would do what? Just write?
Maybe write
teach.
or maybe teach or something. You know, which is why I went to university. I didn't want to go to drama school. I didn't see
But
the
you
point.
chose Cambridge over Oxford.
No, I got rejected from Oxford and got into Cambridge.
Yeah, and then you started acting in
I'll tell you
Cambridge.
why I got rejected from Oxford as well, actually. That was quite a good moment, because I chose a college. I was at a grammar school, which is a non-paying, not fee-paying school in a very kind of slightly run-down part of London called Camden Town. They didn't have a big Oxbridge entrance thing, so nobody really quite knew what college to apply for. So I went up to Oxford and chose the one with the prettiest gardens, which was completely stupid because they'd just gone co-ed. It was a rowing college. So my interview after the exams was with these two men. I'll never forget it. One was in a lemon suit, which was a lemon suit, like the colour of that pad, most inappropriate. And they sat there, talked to me about all the papers that I'd written and everything, and then they said, would you want to be involved in amateur theatricals while you were here? So I launched into a very enthusiastic, oh yes, because I think and would be, and you could see,
curtain
falling. Oh well, she's going to be one of those. Yeah. And
so
I
they
was
rejected
roundly
you for that reason?
Well, I'm sure there were other reasons, but that seemed to me to be a clear negative.
You closer to your mother or your father?
Well, I'm closer to my mother.
No, were you closer? I mean, during those times.
At that point?
Yeah.
Probably to my mother, because my father was a very private individual, but he was very ill.
Died when he was 53.
Yeah, just turned 53. And during the period of which came after his serious stroke, the 4 years that came after that, we got very much closer because he was ill and because therefore all those defences they were all stripped away, and because, interesting actually, because he was an extremely articulate man who loved words. I love words, just love words. I love the process of choosing words and choosing how to put them together, and I do enjoy it very much. And Dad lost the power of speech when he had his stroke, and I remember him saying, I'm too impatient with words, and that's why. The one thing that I cling to and that I use too quickly, too impatiently and too cruelly sometimes has been taken away from me. And I remember teaching him to speak English again, but really literally, the like teaching a foreign student. I am, you are, he is, she is.
Did that experience and losing him at such a young age change you, you think?
Oh, yes.
You would have been very different, maybe?
Oh, definitely, yes.
How so?
Well, I think I tried to take his place, really. I wanted my mother not to be lonely, so I, as it were,
you became
her companion as far as I could. I mean, as far as she would let me. We're very close now. I took her away to places. We visited Sri Lanka. I took her to Alaska. And
why Sri Lanka?
because it was one of Dad had been there on a Shakespearean tour, and he'd once described an experience he'd had of standing in the Indian Ocean eating a mango, and the mango juice dribbling down his body into the ocean, which was so kind of extraordinary and exotic that I wanted to take Mum there as a kind of pilgrimage, you know.
She's still alive?
Yes, oh, very much so.
Did she come and watch you?
She appears in Junior briefly, actually.
Oh, she does?
Yes, because she was out in San Francisco while we were shooting. So she is the rather formidable-looking doctor who stands outside Arnold's door saying, "I really think you should come out, Alexandra."
When did you meet Ken?
1987.
Yeah. When you were both doing Fortunes of War?
Shit.
Yeah. Well, did something happen there? I mean, because...
Well, yeah. I mean, we were glued together for 9 months, really, doing that project. So quite a lot of water went under that particular bridge, yes.
And you knew then, and he knew then, and you two were
No,
together.
I knew. He had no idea, as is so often the case. No, we weren't married for 3 years until 3 years after that.
Even then, did you have some sense that he was driven to be, was he driven to be what he became, in a sense, of all these comparisons and sort of this young man who's accomplished
what you mean?
so
He was
much
somehow
in terms
forced
of,
into it? No, I don't.
No, I don't mean that, but I mean in terms of the accomplishments that, you know, all the things that he did before he was 30 as an actor, both as a producer, director, and an actor.
I think he is, yes, very driven. I'm sure he would say that himself, I'm sure.
Do you, in inhabiting a role, spend a lot of time on research? I mean,
when it's somebody real like that, lots. You read everything there is.
What'd you read for Remains of the Day?
I read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Now, see, I read that, and I thought, well, that's just what she was reading while she was doing it.
No, I read
you
it because...
for what?
Well, because the period that Remains of the Day takes place in was absolutely during the pre-war, and it covers, in many ways, the rise of... Well, it covers the rise of the Nazis, obviously, but it also covers what was going on in England at the time, who was collaborating, or what the nature of the collaboration was. And it was very helpful because it helped me to understand that although, with hindsight, we look back on that and think, but how could this and how could they have done that and why didn't they see? That many people just did not see. And that her objections when Stevens fires the two Jewish girls were really quite clear, sort of lucid, given the fact that she was just a servant who probably didn't have time to read the newspapers and who wasn't encouraged anyway to have any views, politically or otherwise. I don't know, the whole that film is, I find that film very affecting.
Affecting, meaning?
Well, meaning I find it emotionally very powerful. Yeah. That sense of lost opportunities. And
how about Howard's End?
And Howard's End, I haven't seen Howard's End for so long, but both those experiences with Tony Hopkins were wonderful for me because he's such a wonderful actor. And
good actors make you better.
They make you miles better. I mean, like anything, like table tennis.
Yeah,
like
tennis,
the
whatever.
old,
yeah.
Whatever
the better the competition is, the better you become.
Totally.
Because they make you better. But how does it work? He makes you better because what? What is it about the experience that makes you better?
It's quite a difficult one. I think that if somebody's very good, they're very confident, and they don't, therefore they are, rather than they do, if you see what I mean. And that's, I suppose, again, what I mean by letting go, is that if you go into the magic circle that's created by lights and cameras, I mean, we think it's different to stage, but it's not really. In some ways, that circle of light is very much a stage, and you do have an audience. You have a crew above, below, all around, and you get in that, and you for those moments, you are those people. Yeah. And if you're with somebody who's confident enough to be there and just respond as the mood happens. It is better. The work is better.
How is it different acting with Ken? I mean, because you two know each other so well and instinctively.
Well, there are advantages and disadvantages. And I think the main disadvantage is when he's directing as well.
Yeah.
I remember grabbing his lapels doing the chapel scene in Much Ado About Nothing and saying, "You're not here. You're not here."
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh yeah, sorry."
Because his head was into directing.
Well, no, he was just out. You know, I could see that it was like the camera was in some, or had made a shift, or that there was a shift in the lighting or something, and it registered in his eyes. Yeah. And although it was doing my shot, and I went into hyperspace, but actually at the same time he is remarkable because he can switch on and off, but I don't think it's ideal.
Could you do it?
No, I wouldn't. Nor would I wouldn't want to.
You wouldn't want to direct. You wouldn't want to carry that.
I think that you have to have a very particular kind of temperament to direct. I mean, Ken's temperament is incredible, really, because he's, although he feels things very deeply and passionately and gets very involved emotionally with what he's doing, he has extraordinary tolerance and the kind of patience that I simply don't have. I've inherited all my father's impatience. And also, you must be on call and available to everybody at all times. And I find that that acting, because it's concentrating on one, it's a kind of purer thing. In a sense, directing is an amalgam of so many things that it does require a very particular kind of person, I think.
If you had to do it over, I mean, if you could go back and retrace the steps that brought you where you are, an Academy Award and now comedy and all the acclaim you've had, would you do it differently? I mean, do you look back and say, well, if I know it's going to work out this way, I would have done these things to be better prepared for it?
No. I don't think so.
Take it as it flies.
Totally. I've never had a...
You're not a worrier.
I'm not try not to worry, and I try not to feel guilt or regret because life's too short. And also, I've never had a game plan, if you see what I mean. It's always been a question of something will float past my field of vision.
Yeah. But was there... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, it's just I've always responded to... I'm very suggestible.
So somebody comes along with an interesting offer, you'll go, even though you never thought about that.
That sounds great, even though I have never thought of it.
You weren't looking for a comedy to do.
No, exactly.
It just happened.
Precisely.
Yeah. And why did they want you? When Ivan came to you, what did he say?
I think he liked the idea. He certainly wanted something very different for Arnold in this film. Yeah. So he needed, clearly, a different tempo.
Yeah.
And you have Danny, who has the fast sort of New Yorker kind of incredibly sharp talk. He's wonderful, Danny. I mean, his techniques are so fantastic. He's wonderful to work with. And you have Arnold, who sails like a rather stately galleon, holding true to the course all the way through the picture.
Yeah. And he needed to play off of that.
And he needed somebody to play off him. Yeah. And I thought it was a very good idea that she was English. It was like take an Austrian, an English woman, and a New Yorker, and put them together and see what the rhythms make.
And the clumsiness says what?
The clumsiness says that this is a woman who concentrates so hard on her work and is so completely involved in her work that she's never bothered. It doesn't... You see, the difference is not just clumsiness. Yeah. The difference about Diana is that she doesn't care. She doesn't care that she's got toilet paper on her shoe. Yeah. She doesn't care that she knocks the glass over. She's just knocked the glass over. It's a fact. It's just a fact. She has no... not shame, but she's... I found that very attractive because we're all so self-aware, particularly women, you know, very conscious of not being undignified or looking foolish. Well, all human beings are like that, actually. Yeah. Human beings and cats. We don't want to be ridiculed. Yes, we don't want to be caught in the act of doing something really dumb. You know, if I trip... Cats are the same? Cats are the same, yes. If you catch a cat falling off something, the cat will definitely look kind of... Did anybody see that? It's the only animal I've seen embarrassed.
A self-consciousness.
Yeah, self-conscious, absolutely. But she has no self-consciousness at all. She's just, you know, it's a tremendous advantage. I found it very liberating.
You didn't want to be did you want to be a star? A movie star?
I'm not a movie star, though.
I would think an Academy Award, by definition, would make you a movie star.
I don't think so. I think a movie star is, and then perhaps we're going back to this difference between the English and America. I guess I could become one if I moved to Hollywood and
But are you saying that a movie star is a term of...
No, I'm not being...
It's not a derogatory term?
No, absolutely not, no. Absolutely
not. A movie
not.
star is known...
I value movie stars enormously.
But who's a movie star?
Well, a movie star... Well, Arnold's a movie star.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
And Danny's a movie star, as well as lots of other things.
Anthony Hopkins a movie star?
Yes, I think so. I think so.
He became one.
Yes, he's become one, I think. Jodie Foster.
These
are people.
Star.
Yes, they're part and parcel of film. And
Robert Redford's a movie star.
Robert Redford is absolutely one of the ultimate movie stars, and has the... I don't know, it's very difficult to explain it without, as you say, it's sounding as though you're being... I'm not at all.
As if you're putting down when you're not.
No.
Because some of those people had enormous talent in a variety of directions.
Yes,
Redford
exactly.
Especially.
Yes, exactly. Which is remarkable that he is all those things.
Yeah.
Because it's true that some people are just movie stars, and Redford is also a fantastic film actor. But he's got both. He's got all of that. And I don't think of myself as a movie star.
But if you became a movie star, you might have more control over what you could do. Now, you may have all that control as it is.
But I may not want any more control, you see.
Really?
No, because, well, okay, here's what I think. I think that I'm lucky in the sense that because I wanted to write, because I always wanted to be a comedian, and I didn't want to act particularly. It didn't come into my desires. I came to it accidentally, which I think is very helpful, because, as it were, it's kind of lateral, you know, and it's not something you're grasping.
You once said something very interesting about that point, is that somehow best things happen if you're not grasping for them, if you're not reaching for them, if they're not there by design.
Yes.
Somehow, almost, it's not quite as serendipity, but it is that sense that, I think John Lennon once said something about that, life is what happens while you're
not looking.
Yeah.
I mean, but when you're searching for a word, or you can't remember a face or a name, and you're looking for it directly in your head, and you're looking directly straight on, and you're thinking, I've got it. It's so much harder to find it. And I don't think I'd have any of this if I'd been looking for it in the first place.
Yeah. So
I've got a feeling, anyway.
Yeah. You wouldn't really change. I mean, you look at where you are. It's not a whole lot you'd want to change, is it?
No, nothing.
I mean, it's
really.
pretty damn good right now.
I mean, it's everything, you could ever want. There's nothing more. I mean, I think probably the art of life is to want what you've got.
How about children?
Children, well, I've never been struck with uncontrollable broodiness, but I like
broodiness
children.
Meaning the desire to have a brood?
A huge, well, just a maternal kind of oomph. And therefore I haven't gone for it, because I've always felt that you should really want to have children before
Do you
have
believe
children.
it's incompatible almost with all these other things that are happening to you?
I think it's incompatible with running around the world like a kind of blue bottle on cocaine, yes. But I don't think it's incompatible with having the sort of life that I would like. I mean, I think that when I turned 35 this year, and part of me thought, just a little part, thought, I wonder if I'm getting too old for all this. And I don't know what... I don't mean old in the sense of too old, but just...
Does an adult do
that
this?
You start changing slightly your... It's part... I know, and I know that's to do with the sort of attention that you get. Did you stomp that thought back down and say, no, it's not real? I stomped it back down because I enjoy it so much. And because I want to write, and I like telling stories.
Okay, I want to talk about writing a little bit too, because I mean, with Jane Austen and Sense and Sensibility, whatever happened to that, if anything. But
sure.
What's the joy for you of acting?
It's losing yourself for a minute. Actually, I think. It's difficult to pin down what quite the satisfaction is, but you do definitely, even in film, if it was theatre, I would say it was the audience response, but on film it's something different. And you'll do a scene and you feel satisfaction when you get to the end of it and you've forgotten yourself for a moment.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time there's some spinal acknowledgement that it's flowed, and that something you've made something that real, that
you've created
real,
something
that sort of exists in the moment.
Yeah.
I suppose, like, not to be pretentious, I hope, but oh well, never mind.
That's right. Go the hell ahead.
What the hell? You know, if a painter picks up a brush and makes one brush stroke that they know is right, and it's going in the right direction, and it contains the right mood and colour and texture and everything which must happen very rarely. It's like that, really.
Yeah.
It's painting a picture, telling a story.
What would you do if I mean, do you ever think about giving it up? I mean, that's somehow, I mean, there are not that many great roles.
Absolutely. And
so either you
also,
compromise yourself or you...
Yeah. Or, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you compromise yourself, because, I mean, what are you? Some kind of...
No, exactly.
I mean, you're just a human being,
exactly,
not sort of important kind of moral system or anything.
Well.
But, I mean, I think more...
Well, there are certain roles you wouldn't do.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But more importantly, I think, as you get older, or as I get older anyway, I look at myself and think, well, I've done... Maybe I've used up certain areas of myself.
Really?
See what I mean?
You had a certain a reservoir of talent you could draw on in a certain area, and you've
represented a certain kind of person in a certain kind of way, and you don't want to repeat yourself.
Yeah.
And I can't see that I'm ever necessarily going to be the right person to cast as, I don't know, Paloma Picasso or a Lucretia Borgia, I don't know. I mean, there are certain things that my atmosphere, my aura, just I'm not going to be able to twist it or change it enough to inhabit those. So your field of choice, I think, does narrow. But if I've any ambitions, it's to write as I get older, and to write about being older and about what does happen.
This is original writing.
Yeah, because it seems to me that women reach their most powerful and often their most interesting in their 50s and 60s. And I don't see any movies about women of that age.
Well, why is that? Because women in their 50s and 60s aren't writing those stories?
Yes, that's why. We have to do it. We have to do it. I mean, you can't actually... I had this all the way through university when we were doing review, sketch comedy. Yeah. And we would always complain, or I was the only woman in the group, but I would still complain with other women that there was nothing, nothing much was being written for me. And it wasn't until I started to write for myself that I understood that really I had to take matters into my own hands. It was no good continuing to complain about the absolutely incontrovertible fact that there wasn't very much good writing for me. But... I mean, it wasn't their responsibility necessarily to write things for me. They were writing about things that they knew about or they could make funny.
Do you now have the power? I mean, you were writing a screenplay for Sense and Sensibility, right? Based on Jane Austen, I assume, is your favorite novelist.
Just about.
Yeah, just about. Why?
Yes. Because I think because of her irony and the fact that in a world where it must have been very difficult to be such a thing, she was very cynical in just the right way, that she understood about emotion and what was valuable, but she saw with a very clear and rational and ironic eye just precisely what was going on between people, that she had absolutely an incisive understanding and a wicked sense of humour, the combination of which has produced these jewels of books. And although the screenplay, which we're making next year, as it happens...
we being?
Well, Ang Lee is going to direct it next year in England or Ireland for Mirage with Lindsay Duran, who's the producer, and which is be for Columbia.
Yeah. And, and you?
And I'll be scribbling away and in it probably too.
Now, do you have to peer in it to get them to do it?
I don't know. I don't know what they'd say if I said,
I just want to write
I'm
it.
too old, or I just want to be the writer.
Yeah.
And I thought about it a lot, because it was tricky, and I thought, well, maybe I've covered that ground, or maybe I shouldn't be in it. Maybe I'd be more useful as a writer if I was just on set and there. But I kind of want to be in it. And that was interesting too, that I clearly wanted to be a part of it as a performer.
Yeah. Desire to this is adapting someone else's work. How about creating your own screenplay?
I think that's even more important, actually. I mean, sometimes I worry about the feasibility and indeed the sense of adapting really great books, really great novels. However, I think good stories can come in various forms. They're always, well, in fact, there are very few stories, and they turn up again and again and again.
How badly do you want to work with Ken, and vice versa?
Oh, very much. I'm really looking forward to the next one, whatever it is.
You don't know what it's going to be?
No, we don't. We've got lots of kind of loose plans, but we don't know what.
I mean, but there's a part of your brain is always out there sort of scanning.
Scanning, yes, precisely. I mean, I think it's beyond... It's like Frankenstein. I wasn't in Frankenstein because it was just, I thought, nobody's going to buy me as, the virgin bride. I'm sorry. We've been married for 5 years, and I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah, right.
And I wouldn't pay to go and see it either.
Yeah.
So it had to be not me. But there are some relationships that do work. Yes. I mean, the Beatrice Benedict thing was good because they knew each other already.
Yeah.
So you have to choose very carefully.
But there's a lot of
do.
Shakespeare you could do.
A lot of Shakespeare we could do. I mean, we'd love to do Twelfth Night. And Ken would play Feste. He's very good as clowns. He was absolutely wonderful in As You Like It.
Is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is now, and he was here and we talked about it at length, and him talking about it is almost as interesting as the film. But it's got De Niro, and so you've got this extraordinary sense of these two people together. Did you like it?
Frankenstein?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Would you say so if you didn't?
To him?
Yes.
I'd probably lie.
You'd lie?
I'd lie.
Because
I don't think
he doesn't want to hear from...
No, I don't think it's that. It's just that I've lived with him making it for 2 years.
Yeah, I know. And he's got a lot invested in this.
You can't, I just couldn't, say, oh, God, it's not very good. Just couldn't do it.
You couldn't say to him, I love you. I love you.
I think you're great.
And you're great. You are a great actor. You are a fabulous lover and a wonderful husband. And you have spent your last 2 years making this movie, and it is not worth it. You couldn't do it. You couldn't.
No.
Yeah. Would you lie to him then? You'd just say, suppose he said, would you come up with a way to be,
There's various forms of lying.
Yes.
You can lie whilst at the same time tell the truth. Yes, I mean, I'm sure that Ken would have known.
Yeah.
If I hadn't liked
Well,
it.
does this pervade this relationship that you two can't really be
No. I mean, I
other?
Jest really because you always know.
He would know if you know, or he would know first himself.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Totally.
And he might come to you and say,
Look,
he
I
says
know
M.
that this
He calls you M, does it?
Yeah.
M, I just didn't get this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's certainly true. We're always very kind of honest about all that. Yeah. And you always know.
Take a look at this. This is from Henry V. This is a scene between you and Kenneth Branagh.
Gosh, I haven't seen that for ages.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. It's great to have you here.
Thanks.
Emma Thompson stars with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in Junior. We thank you for joining us this evening. Look forward to seeing you next time. See you then.
Look, Joe, why don't we talk about it tonight? I'll pick you up early. Around 7:30, we'll go to an early show. And... Come on, Jill, don't look so serious.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Dave. I can't go out with you tonight.
Well, what gives anyway? You got a family party on or something?
No, it's nothing to do with the family. I don't know how to say this, Dave, but... I'm dating Jimmy Dawson.
Give me that again?
I'm dating Jimmy Dawson.
That show up? Who thinks he's such a big football hero? What's the idea? You falling for his phony shoulders or something?
He asked me to go out with him, that's all, and I said I would.
What about the little matter of going steady with me?
I decided it's time we broke up. It's stupid for kids our age to keep going out with the same person year after year.
I guess your mother thought up that line.
She did not. I can make up my own mind. Look, I told Jimmy that I'd meet him after school this afternoon. He's waiting for me right down over by the corner, so I'd better go now.
Yeah. I guess a guy has to have a car to impress a girl like you. Along with some phony shoulders. Well, your boyfriend better watch out. Because he might meet a guy with a Cadillac someday. And then where'll he be?
But even if we beat Western, we still have a mathematical chance of getting in the playoffs.
How come?
Well, you see, we're one game up on them now.
What are you going to
do? Our games with Lincoln High. Western still has a game with them.
And they haven't beaten Lincoln all year.
That's right. That's what I say.
Isn't that how?
Good one.
Pretty good guy, don't he? Hi, fellas.
Hello, Dave. How's it going?
Man, lousy English exam, old man Peterson sprung on us today, huh?
Yeah, lousy is right. I never even knew there was such a thing as George in poets. How was I supposed to name him?
I put down George. I figured there ought to be at least one Georgian poet named George.
Boy, Peterson will get you for that. He's still mad about the time you brought him the bunch of daffodils after we studied that poem about daffodils by Wordsworth.
Yeah, Peterson's crazy about me.
Hey, is that the new sophomore?
Yeah. You never guessed she was only 14?
Telling me. Wow.
Say, Dave, what happened to your steady? There she is with Jim Dawson.
Got a fight? Dawson has a car, and boy, does it ever impress that doll.
Yeah, it's those flashy white wall tires that send her, man.
She wants to get into the big time, Davy boy. Captain of the football team and all that.
Well, I was getting kind of sick of her anyway. That Dawson, what a show-off. You know, he really thinks he's somebody? Well, as far as I'm concerned, they deserve each other.
Hey, Dave, how come you didn't turn out to football practice all week?
Because I quit the crummy team, that's why. Coach, he doesn't know what he's doing, and team's going downhill so fast it isn't even funny. I'm going over to see what gives with the new doll.
Did you hear about Dave? Coach left him on the bench during the whole of last Saturday's game. Boy, was Dave mad. He quit the team right the next day.
He hasn't anything to be sore about. He thinks the team can't get along without him. He's kidding himself. Let's face it, he's just not that good.
Well, they beat us 3 out of 4, but we're a lot better than we were then. They hit their peak just about that time, and I don't think they've gotten any better.
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Oh, hi. Boy, I'm really outnumbered now. I gotta go, Jill. I'll see you tonight. About 8?
Sure.
So long.
I thought you went steady with Dave Forsythe. We broke up. Gee, I always thought Dave was cute. He's okay. He acts like a kid, though. But he's so funny in class. You should go out with him, then you wouldn't think all those wild tricks were so funny.
I always thought Dave acted like a kid, too. You can only take so much of that fooling around.
Honest, he's like a big baby the way he shows off. You should have seen him last Monday in the hall at school.
Hey, Dawson, I'd like to speak to you for a minute.
Sure, Dave.
I guess you think you're pretty smart playing up to the coach last Saturday and getting him to leave me out of the game.
Oh, no, wait a minute. You got your wires crossed, boy.
Who are you trying to kid? I saw you talking to the coach just before the game, and I could see you looking straight at me. Pretty dirty trick fixing it so I couldn't play.
Dave, for Pete's sake.
We were talking about the new play, Dave. We didn't mention you once.
Oh, come off it, Forsythe. You know, it's possible the coach doesn't think you're good enough.
I know a dirty deal when I see one.
Ah, you're nuts.
It was awful. I was so embarrassed I nearly died. This wasn't the first time that Dave acted like that either. I was really fed up. And then, well, Jimmy asked me to go out with him a couple of days later, and I thought it'd be terrific. He's so nice. Well, he acts his age. Are you going to go steady with Jimmy now? Oh, I don't know. This is the first time I've gone out with him.
I don't blame you for telling Dave off. He's an awful mama's boy. Gee, I gotta be going.
Yeah, me too.
Can't you say excuse me to your mother for being late?
I'm sorry, Mom. Excuse me.
Your mother can't keep dinner waiting just because you feel like hanging around the streets a little longer.
I said I was sorry, didn't I?
It's just another indication of your constant thoughtlessness and irresponsibility.
Say, Dad, do you think I could have the car tonight? I'll take real good care of it, and I'll fill it up with gas when I bring it back.
What do you want with the car?
Gee, Dad, girls won't go out with a fella unless he's got a car.
Figured Jill Anderson out long enough without a car.
Well, she left me for a guy with a car.
Who's that, dear?
Oh, that crummy show-off, Jim Dawson.
He's a good boy, young Dawson. And I understand from his father that he saved his money and bought that car himself.
Dad, are you going to let me have the car or not?
No, I am not. You're too young to be running around in cars at night with girls.
I'm 16, aren't I? I've got a license. What's the sense of having a license if you can't drive the car?
Why don't you let him use it this once, Fred? It's true. Boys nowadays need cars to take girls out. All the mothers say so. Well, this afternoon at Lucy Fillmore's, they were saying that...
Look, Lila, you know I need that car in my work. Now, if he got in an accident, what would I do? Anyway, what does he do with all the money he makes at the grocery store? Let him save his money and buy a car, just like young Dawson.
All I ever hear around here is money. I'm getting sick and tired of it. I never get to do anything the other kids do. And the excuse you always give me is money.
All right, that's about enough, young man. I didn't come home from a hard day's work just to get impertinence from you.
You always treat me as though I were about 6 years old.
That's because you act like you were 6 years old.
Fred!
Lila, something has got to be done about that boy. He's unstable, he's irresponsible, can't save money, he's girl crazy. Why, when they wouldn't let him play in Saturday's game, he quit the squad.
Fred, sit down. Stop being so excited. He's young. Things like having a car mean a lot to him. Oh, maybe I've babied him, but... You know, Fred, you haven't always set the best example for him. Being your son, he wants to be like you. He wants to copy you. And you have to admit you blow your top awfully easily sometimes, like tonight. You bawled him out without even asking him why he was late. And lately, you've nagged him from morning till night. Can't you say something nice to him once in a while?
I can't seem to get near the boy.
You expect too much of him. I wish you'd arrange something nice for the two of you. Something you could do together. Couldn't you get together for a Saturday?
Lila, I don't mean to be hard on the boy. Really. Look, I'll try to think up something that we can do together. And in the meantime, how about you going up and talking to him about being more responsible? Frankly, his attitude worries me.
Dave, dear, don't be so upset. You must try to understand how your father feels about the car. You know, perhaps if you saved up some of the money yourself, he'd help you buy one.
He won't help me with anything. Doesn't trust me. I wouldn't hurt his crummy old car. Always acts as though I was a dumb kid.
Well, Dave, you should show him you're responsible. Lately, you've been awfully rebellious. You know how angry it makes him.
Never notices anything good I do. Just yells all the time.
I wish you wouldn't be like this. Well, I'll leave your dessert in the refrigerator for you. Well, I certainly didn't get very far. He can be terribly stubborn. You know, Fred, he said you never notice when he tries to please you. Sometimes I wonder if we don't set up standards that are just a little too high for him. And then when he can't come up to them, he gets angry and snaps at everyone. I think he's really anxious to please you.
I think I'll go up and have a talk with him. See if I can't work something out. Dave, may I come in? Dave, I'm sorry about our argument, but I wish you'd try to see my point of view about this car business. Look, since you won't be with the team Saturday, how'd you like to see the game with me?
No, thank you.
What do you mean, no, thank you? Look, I've heard about all I can take from a young brat like you. Despite your bad behavior, I came up here and tried to be friends. I even apologized. You didn't even try to respond like a human being. Something's going to be done about you.
Dad, this is Jimmy.
Jimmy, how are you? Nice to see you.
Hello, Mr. Anderson.
It's quite a car you've got there.
Yeah, it's a real bomb, sir.
Well, I hope when you drive it as a car, not as a bomb.
Oh, Jimmy's a good driver, Dad.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Why don't we go ahead and sit over there for a while?
Okay. Keys. Boy. What? You're gonna give me a fight.
You give me a fight, too.
Did I hurt you?
It serves you right to ask him.
Where you going? You gonna go for a ride? Oh, come on. Here we go?
Okay.
Okay. Let's go.
10 minutes. Dave.
Oh, yes, Mr. Anderson. What's that?
How did Dave get into a situation like this? It seems impossible. But Dave was emotionally unstable. He didn't think straight about what he was doing. Why can't Dave face facts and accept life as it is? Why does he have such an exaggerated idea of his own importance and ability that he can't see things as they are? Because he can't fit the real world into his unreal idea of how it should be, he is so frustrated that he loses control of himself. With help, Dave can learn to control these emotions and develop more mature attitudes. But how could his emotional instability have been prevented?